the 5th of May, 2023. Hi, everybody. I'm Dana Durnford. I'm also known as the Nuclear Proctologist.org. You can call it 709-589-4406. It's on the screen. So we got a major earthquake in Japan. It's close to 2 nuclear power plants. We got 1 dead, over 22 confirmed injured, and as we know throughout the history of Japan's earthquake, the truth don't come out for at least another week or two. And this could be bad for everybody. Hi, Dana and Asana. And anybody else? We got a poll for you. Is the upper 6 on Japan's earthquake scale of 7 proof that Japan's nuclear should be shut down? And the shaking from the recent earthquake we're going to cover in a few moments, which is today, lasted over 2 minutes over a wide area. Hi, everybody. Let's get after it. So, to tell the story of why this is a concern to you and me and everybody else, I got to take you back to 2018 to explain how Japan's seismic intensity scale actually is a weapon of deception. So 2007, September the 7th, 2018 rather, there was a large earthquake. By the way, there was another earthquake in Hokkaido today also. We'll get to that. 2,000 people were involved, 22,000 people were involved in the rescue efforts. Now, at the beginning, I'm going to cover for just a few minutes here a 2018 earthquake so you can comprehend why we're worried about this particular one. So this one was an upper 6 on Japan's seismic intensity scale. The media reported as a magnitude 6.6. But this had some unique features. This is from 2018. And what you can see is probably the most unusual picture you've ever seen in your entire life. You've never seen pictures like this before. This is Hokkaido Island, and you can see the earthquake in 2018, this is what these pictures are from, dropped the payloads right around the mountains. And so up close, you can see the size of houses, and then you can see the spillage. And so when you see this, you got to realize this was a huge earthquake that was disguised. So 2018, we're just covering that for a few minutes. And you can see the carnage from 2018, the landslides, for instance. There is landslides from the day we're going to get to in a minute. So it registered a 6.7 and a maximum intensity scale of 7 on Japan's Shindo scale, which is 7, which is equal to a 10 earthquake in everywhere else. And the proof of that, because this was buried, right, and disguised. So you can see how the roads were torn apart, for instance. That there was 130 aftershocks in 2018. There's already been dozens of aftershocks today. We're going to get to that momentarily. There's a magnitude of 6.7 and a maximum intensity of 7 on Japan's scale of 7. But let's just call it a 9.5. But have you ever seen an earthquake that tore or lost the payloads around all these mountains? So it's really difficult to appreciate the scale you're looking at. But this was a 9.5 to a 10 earthquake. Now, close by, and I'll show you on a map in a moment, was the Seperate Nuclear Power plant. So it was located right there. The earthquake happened right across from it, not that far away. Almost the same as today's earthquake. that we're going to get to in a minute. So these are 2018 pictures of that earthquake that was disguised. It's the same level as the earthquake they're talking about today. And we got lots of pictures and stories. I'm not going to keep you here for a long period tonight. This was supposed to be a no-show today, a day of recovery, but this is important information. So a 7 on the Shindo scale was the highest the scale goes, but it's only a 6.7 on the international scale. Now, have you seen 6.7 earthquakes anywhere on the planet that drop the payloads of all the mountains for a very long distance? And to give you context of scale, again, I'll do that for you, where it tore open the roads. This was a 6.7. This was a shallow earthquake, the same as the earthquake today that we're almost going to get to in a minute here, less than a minute. And you can see what the landslide looks like. So it's kind of hard to appreciate it when you see pictures like this, because, you know, they're from airplanes, they're far away. But if you look at the context where the payloads of the mountains are dropped, you've never seen that before, right? You've never seen nothing like that before. That was a 6.7 earthquake, the same as they had today. So you can't trust the Japanese. They've already established this a very long time ago. So let's get into today's earthquake. Houses crushing cars, landslides, large scales, and away we go. Okay, here we go. So today's earthquake, what I just showed you up to now was 2018. That was to give you context of what I'm going to show you right now. So today, May the 5th, 2023, this is from here on out, this is all the current earthquake. Powerful quake hits Japan, Ishikawa Prefecture. A strong earthquake hits near Japan. So this was from today's picture, where a house crushed a car. Now, Suzu, Ishikawa, Japan, is where the earthquake ground zero was to. Well, that whole prefecture / province. So Shika Nuclear Power Plant is not very far away, and neither is the other nuclear power plant up there. So in Fukushima earthquake, the reactors blew up. They hid that, and this is the American media pretending they're in the fuel pool 100 feet above the carnage. So Japan can't be trusted. There was a big, long tremor that lasted about 2 minutes. And that seismic intensity scale, for about a week in the area, you have to be worried about upper 6. And I just showed you what an upper 6 looked like in 2018, where it dropped the payloads of all the mountains, right? So those two clips were from different stories we're going to get to tonight. An upper 6 and a 7 as impossible to remain standing. So these were impossible to remain standing or move without crawling, and people may be thrown through the air. That's what an upper 6. Today's earthquake is an upper 6. That was a picture from 2018. So let's get into the next story. So originally it came out as a 6.3. That was upgraded. No tsunami threat. This allegedly was on land. This was at a depth about 10 kilometers, very shallow earthquake. And this is a kind of a strange map where you're not seeing, this is not a typical map we're used to from Japan. There's a lot missing from the map. It doesn't have the normal attributes of a large earthquake. And we'll get to it. An upper 6 on the 7-point seismic intensity scale in the Ishikawa Prefecture town of Suzu, an upper 5 in the town of Noto in the same prefecture. So an upper 6, you would take a 7 scale, divided into the 10 scale, and you got 1.428. You multiply that by an upper 6, a 6 point, in this case a 6.8, was a 9.7 earthquake on the Richter scale. Struck at a depth of about 10 kilometers, was located in the Noto region of Ishikawa Prefecture. No abnormalities were detected at the Shika Nuclear Power Plant in Ishikawa Prefecture. Now, they can't quantify those types of assertions because these are huge, nuclear plants are huge sites. It's a very long time to quantify an assertion like that. And this was within 1 hour, this particular story. An M6.3 earthquake hits Ishikawa Prefecture, killing 1 person. It might be okay to go back to the regular screen. And in these pictures, you can see landslides. So these are original pictures. We're going to have to wait a few days before the rest of the actual picture starts coming out, the documentation and everything else. It works out to a 9.7 upper 6 in Japan's seismic intensity scale. Another earthquake registered 4 in Japan's scale was observed in Suzu 11 minutes after the initial 6.3, which was upgraded to a 6.5 and a 6.6 in some stories, registering a 4 on the Japanese scale 11 minutes later. So there was quite a lot of aftershocks. So the Japanese scale is, when you do the mathematics on it, you're talking about a 6.1 on the Richter scale. Strong earthquake hits Japan, killing 1, injures 13. And now what was interesting about this story that alarmed me was I seen Mari Yamaguchi. And Mari Yamaguchi is the nuclear cover-up story. She does the nuclear cover-up. So she'll come out with a story through Associated Press and everybody else regurgitates it worldwide. So seeing her name there is a very bad omen, which means something serious has happened. And there's a lot of evidence to suggest something serious has happened, and we'll get to that. A strong, shallower earthquake. This is very shallow at 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers, 7.5 miles deep. 6 homes were damaged, and rain could trigger mudslides, causing further damage. Which was an interesting thing to use the word, well, rain later can cause mudslides because you cracked open the earth, right? But originally there was, as we know from 2018, they lost payloads of all kinds of mountains. It was extraordinary. We've never seen anything like that in history. A video broadcast by NHK, which is a major public television, government-funded television, showed a section of a hill that had crumbled and fallen on a house. And I showed you some pictures of that, actually. It also broadcast a video taken by a reporter who was visiting his family, shows the room shaken for nearly half a minute. But multiple videos came out after showed the shaking for over 2 minutes. For actually over 2 minutes. So, strong earthquake hits near Japan. This is one of the first stories that I read, and I showed you the pictures of the house. That picture was from today. A man was killed, a building collapsed. There was multiple buildings collapsed. We'll get to some of that. And so the original report This is the opposite of Fukushima, but there's two nuclear power plants side by side. The U.S. Geological Survey says a 6.2 magnitude earthquake struck at 2:42, 50 kilometers off the coastline, at a depth of 8.7 kilometers. So it's a lot shallower than the other story I just referred to. A report from Japan monitors earthquakes in the regions differ slightly, saying the epicenter of the quake was on land, which makes sense when you start looking at the evidence, and recorded the quake at 6.3 magnitude with a depth of 10 kilometers. So between 9 kilometers and 12 kilometers is the basic consensus. The Japan Times, quoting local fire officials, reported 3 houses collapsed. At least one person was trapped in the wreckage. There was no abnormalities. This was within 1 hour, by the way. Reported at the Shika Nuclear Power Plant near the epicenter. I got both of them marked on that map for you. And in the bottom right-hand scale, you might be able to see the scale for that map. You'll see how big 5 miles is in the bottom right-hand corner. So that's about 20 miles away. With a depth, and they're saying 10 kilometers. Japan's agency reported several smaller earthquakes after the initial quake. Larger quakes approaching magnitude 6 could be possible in the coming weeks. And now Japan is overdue for a major earthquake after Fukushima nuclear meltdowns. They usually happen somewhere 30, 40 kilometers off the coastline and 30 or 40 kilometers deep. And these are considered shallow too, by the way. This is super shallow. They had another earthquake, much more worse apparently than this one, in 2007 in the same place. A 6.3 earthquake shakes central Japan at a depth of 10 kilometers. It registered on Japanese Shindo's seismic scale, which goes up to a maximum of 7, as an upper 6, meaning it could cause major landslides, but an upper 6 means you can't stand up. You have to crawl, and you may be thrown through the air. And on their scale, when you scale it up to the Richter scale, you end up at 9.7. Upper 6 in Japan's Shindo's seismic intensity scale, which goes up to a maximum of 7. Agency placed the epicenter on land, and in the city of Shizu, the quake registered an upper 6. So in the city, it registered an upper 6. And I marked Shizu on the map in context to where the nuclear power plant is too. And you can also see where the Kashiwashiki Kiriwa nuclear power plant to your right is too. So there's 2 nuclear power plants in the kill zone. I'm not sure if I don't think they're running, but don't quote me. But they do have fuel pools. Those fuel pools can melt down, and there's decades of reactor cores in the fuel pool, for instance, and each reactor has multiple fuel pools. So, like Fukushima had 8 fuel pools that melted down, but they hid it. Shizu, and then there was no abnormalities at the Shiga, which is on one side to your left, and Kiriwa nuclear power plant, which is to your right of the epicenter. And this is a big concern because we know from history, and I'll give you an explanation of it, how the radioactive fallout can reach the northern hemisphere, Canada, United States, in 15 or 20 days. So what you're looking at here is the radioactive fallout over 15 to 20 days. 15 to 20 days. Hi, everybody. What do we got here? We got Dana Nasana in the comments. I got Colette. Hi, Colette. You got One Sky. You got Patrick. Stephen Young. Hi, Stephen. Hope you're doing well, my friend. I know you're not. And Jerry Goldstein. Hi, everybody. I'm sure we got other people. Now, my numbers have been censored heavily, brutally heavily in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. So there's something going on. Japan's earthquake of a magnitude 6.5 injures some and damages buildings. So now they upgraded it to a 6.5. And let me do the math so you can understand. Because over the years we've had a lot of people have issues with understanding. 6.5. So you got to take a 10, the Richter scale is the 10, divided by the Japanese scale, which is 7. That gives you 1.428. You got to multiply that by the 6.5, and you ended up with a 9.2 earthquake. And the 9.2 earthquake is quantified, for instance, which was the same as 2018. And look at 6.6 rather, in 2018 in Hokkaido Prefecture. And this is just a crop picture. This was dropped the payloads of many, 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 many mountains. We've never seen that in history before. Some buildings had collapsed, people were injured. The true numbers won't come out for a week or two. Currently, they're admitting to 22 injuries. But 6.5 on the Shindu scale means you can't stand up, you have to crawl, and you may be thrown through the air. So this is a violent earthquake. And Japan has a lot of standards for earthquakes because they're on the Ring of Fire. And so there's usually not as much damage as you would see, say, in North America or other countries. But that doesn't mean it's not significant. No abnormalities reported at the Shika Nuclear Power Plant in the area, at the Kiriwa plant in neighboring prefecture Niigata. So, Japanese weather authorities revised the quake's magnitude to 6.5 from a preliminary 6.3 and warned against aftershocks, adding that tremors followed the large quake. So there was quite a lot of aftershocks already. They urged residents of the quake area to keep watch for about a week. In case of further events, the seismic intensity scales of 6 or higher on the Japanese Shinzo scale, which runs to 7. So these are violent earthquakes they're talking about. So because they've already had multiple aftershocks, then the question was, should they close down the nuclear power plants, for goodness sakes, after the carnage they've wreaked on the planet? Is an upper 6 on Japan's earthquake scale, the Shinzo scale, of 7, proof that Japan's nuclear should be shut down? It should be shut down, dismantled immediately. The fuel pools could tip over with these kind of earthquakes. Shaking lasted 2 minutes. Well, it was actually over 2 minutes. But imagine if that earthquake from 2018 happens close to a nuclear power plant. Do you really think the fuel pools are not going to tip over? Or just cave, right? It's a legitimate concern because the radioactive fallout comes to North America within a few days. So damage was far and wide, but the truth won't come out for at least another week before we get the actual numbers. Earthquake of magnitude 5.7 hit Japan's Hokkaido island a few hours later. And Hokkaido Island was where these pictures came from in 2018, that picture in particular. That earthquake was at a depth of 75 kilometers. And it's at the northerly end of Japan's islands, Hokkaido, Japan, just so you got context. A man dies, a strong earthquake hits Japan, Ishikawa. Let me put that on the big screen. This was just some clips I was trying to comprehend. The signs were swaying, all the shelves were swaying. You can't see it in that particular video. But the man was killed, 21 injured, now up to 22, 12 hours after. One dead, 21 injuries, with several houses collapsed. It was a big, long tremor that lasted about 2 minutes. So multiple reports from ground zero talking about the tremor lasting over 2 minutes. One dead, homes destroyed as powerful earthquake strikes Japan. M6.5 quake rocks central Japan amid the Golden Week holidays in Japan. Currently, 1 dies, 22 injured. Another house collapsed. This is a picture from the day also. This is another scale that downplays it. No abnormalities again at the Shika Nuclear Power Plant. The epicenter was closer than that city that they're quoting, by the way. Nearly 40 aftershocks had hit the area by 11 p.m. So 40 aftershocks. 40! 40 aftershocks, including a 5.8. So this is far from over. A woman working at one of the stores recalling that the shaking lasted several minutes. So multiple reports of it lasting several minutes with this very tidy earthquake. 2 elevators in a 300-meter, 900-foot tall skyscraper in Osaka, 500 kilometers away. The elevator stopped working. The agency warned the possibility of quakes around the upper 6 level. Upper 6. The agency defines upper 6 from a 7 as impossible to remain standing or move without crawling, and some people may be thrown through the air. That's what an upper 6, and they're expecting upper 6s over the next couple of weeks. That's a perfect spot to have a nuclear disease factory, right? Injuries reported after 6.5 magnitude earthquake. 6.3, which was updated, by the way, to a 6.5. This is another house that collapsed. Another picture from today. Registered an upper 6 in Japan's intensity scale is 7. There was awful rolling and banging thrust from underneath. It felt so long. It was the biggest earthquake in the 85-year-old man who owns a liquor store in Suzu. It's the biggest earthquake in his life. He's 85 years old. Same area was hit by a quake with a lower 6 intensity in 2022 and a bigger one in 2007. The man said the shaking was stronger and longer this time. Strong earthquake kills 1, destroys houses in Japan. Windows destroyed or tilting wooden houses with broken windows, damaged roofs. A mountain slope can be seen collapse. So the footage is far from coming out yet. The agency now is warning of possible quakes around the upper 6 level of Japan's seismic intensity scale of 7 for about a week at least in that area. And then we're almost through. And this was just another video where it doesn't do it justice, but we'll go through it a little before we finish up here. You can probably see the swaying, huge swaying of the blinds. They stood out right. Okay. I didn't want to hang everybody up. That's just a short stream. I just wanted to put it out there in case there's another major earthquake. There's another earthquake. I was going to do a stream on Rumble tonight. I'm not sure if I'm doing it right now, though. Because we want to build up that site in case they take this one down, because the industry can't stand anybody talking about nuclear. We had a poll I'm going to bring up for you somewhere. Is upper 6 in Japan's earthquake scale of 7 in Japan proof that Japan's nuclear should be shut down? And we got a 100%, because this is I'm censored heavily and this is a short stream. The industry is just, they got no one to pick on, and I'm tortured. I'm like a fly, and they got the wings picked off me, the legs picked off me. The nuclear industry got over 1,000 public relation firms to protect the nuclear industry. They got no one to beat up, and except for me, and they got the shit kicked out of me for over a decade straight now. It's a very humbling thing that I do here. And I have no choice because nobody else is willing to pick up the baton. And just, all I can do is the best I can do, right? Alrighty, let me check the comments, see if there's anybody yelling at me. Questions maybe or something. Okay, good night everybody. Thank you for those who managed to find me. It's pretty hard to find me with so much censorship against me. But we have to keep trying to break the paradigm. You're welcome, James. Thank you. Dana Nasana. Hi, Dana. Colette. Colette. Good night. Patrick. We only had a few people in the comments section. ANKH. Jerry Goldstein, Stephen Young, One Sky, and I'm going to close that poll down. Let me bring that up one more time. Is the upper 6 on the earthquake scale of 7 that Japan uses proof that Japan's nuclear should be shut down? Because if this earthquake had been a bit further south, it could have wrecked that nuclear power plant. If it was a bit further north, it could have wrecked that other nuclear power plant. And it could have, there still could be incredible damage, but it's going to be very difficult to get the truth out of the industry. Hi, Danny San. Looks like I got everybody. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. My apologies for doing another show, but it was a major earthquake. If you made it this far, please consider giving me a thumbs up. We'll see everybody. Hopefully there's no more earthquakes. I'm probably going to be doing a stream tomorrow night on Rumble because I didn't get it done tonight. And we got to keep trying to reach the population. There's nothing I won't do for you. There's nothing I won't do for you and your planet and your loved ones. There is nothing. I won't do to try to help, including running myself to the ground. I do it gladly. Have a great night. See everybody on the other side. Take care, folks.